Hello, everybody, and thank you very much for joining us today. My name is Matt Sprague, Senior Product Marketing Manager for Trimble. Today's webinar is Hitting the Easy Button, Improving Project Delivery with Financials Integration. This is a tag team webinar between ProjectSight and Morpheus Technology Group. Before we get started, have just a couple housekeeping items for you. So first of all, and I think most importantly, is to make sure that everybody is familiar with how to ask any questions. So we'll have a Q&A portion near the end of the webinar, but I would highly recommend that or ask that as you have questions to ask them throughout. I'll be able to, after I do my part of the webinar, I'll be off camera going through and monitoring those and setting them up to ask our guest Guy Barlow today to answer any of them. And then at the end there will be a poll question that I've promised that I won't forget to ask and prompt for, but there will be a poll question that you'll be able to answer as well. And then there will be a recording of today's presentation that'll be sent to all attendees and registrants. All right, so we will get going. So thank you very much again for joining us. I introduced myself already, and I'm joined today by Guy Barlow from Morpheus Technology Group to talk about the financials integration that Morpheus has provided to several of our ProjectSight customers. I know that we have attendees ranging from ProjectSight customers to Morpheus customers to potential customers and variations of everything in between. So with that in mind, the main purpose of today's webinar is to walk away with a deep understanding of the integration possibilities that Morpheus provides between ProjectSight and a variety of third-party softwares that you may utilize. However, I'd be remiss if I didn't provide a basic understanding of both platforms. So I'll begin with a short 5-minute, this is ProjectSight, to kind of at least set the stage for those of you that aren't familiar with it. And then I'll hand it over to Guy so that he can go through a Morpheus overview, but then also an in-depth look at the integration capabilities that they provide. And then at the end, like I said, we will have those Q&A. All right, so I'm guessing that this part is not a major surprise to any of you, that ProjectSight is a construction project management software. Our main areas of functional focus are models and drawings, budget and cost management, document management, field management. So ProjectSight is an ISO certified cloud-based solution hosted on AWS. To speak candidly, this is Trimble's next generation of contractor project controls, building off of the market expertise created by years of experience with Prolog. With that in mind, ProjectSight was built from the ground up to be priced competitively. We end up saving our customers quite a bit when converting from our competitors. Scalable and secure, easy to use, and comes with unlimited data storage. ProjectSight can be implemented out of the box. However, like many of our customers, specific customizations are desired and we're more than happy to accommodate. ProjectSight is easily configurable to your needs. So exactly what comes out of the box? I mentioned before that ProjectSight has everything you would expect from a project management solution. So models and drawings, budget and cost management, including the ability to track and manage change, document control, things like RFIs and submittals, field management where you can track quality and safety. We also provide configurable dashboards and a file library. And let's not forget, ProjectSight includes Trimble Connect, our collaboration environment that enables architects, engineers, contractors, owner-operators to collaborate on building projects. Trimble Connect is one of the ways that ProjectSight lends itself to Trimble's connected vision. Which brings me to my last 3 points. So I promised this would be short and we can get it over to Guy and to talk about Morpheus. The term connected construction is being thrown around the industry. What exactly is connected construction? So we at Trimble define the goal of connected construction as the ability to deliver the right data to the right person at the right time. Trimble has a clear vision for connected construction, and the example being demonstrated today between ProjectSight and Morpheus is a singular example of what will be infinite connections that can be made between hardware and software and even manufacturers. So what is it that only Trimble can do? Well, we have an amazing and unique opportunity to truly digitize the industry. On the right-hand side, you can see a few examples of Trimble's devices and equipment. We have over 500,000 of those that are out there day in and day out collecting actual data from the field. Being able to take all of that information and utilize it in different phases of the project and actually take it all the way to the office is a key component. Imagine a day when you don't need to even think about daily reports or as-builts, or even think about submittals. Or why could a 3D model not include all of the material information or other supporting materials? So we're not raising feature-specific questions on the organizational level, but rather focusing on true innovation. All of what I just mentioned are ideas, of course, but we have a great opportunity to make it happen with integrations and partnerships like the one we're discussing here today. In addition to today's topic, we are leading the way with realized connections already happening. After we acquired eBuilder almost 3 years ago now, we built out the first set of connections between ProjectSight and eBuilder. If you're not familiar with eBuilder, it's a program management solution serving over $800 billion in managed projects. It is specifically designed for owners. On the other side, you can see ProjectSight, which is specifically designed for contractors. To address one of the main challenges reported by both the owners and the contractors, we built this integration. This way, both organizations can avoid duplicate data entry, where you enter data into the owner system, and then you also have to enter it into your own system on the contractor side. Our goal is to eliminate the duplicate entry and the inefficiencies and risks that it creates. Lastly, here is the segue over to Guy to talk about Morpheus. ProjectSight's API allows you to create integrations that fit your needs and your process. Don't be fooled by integrations where you need to change your process to fit in their box and those that require manual intervention. ProjectSight is built to integrate. This part has been a crucial component of the product from day one. It has an open API. You will get access to that along with the product, and it facilitates partnerships and integrations like the one we're here to discover today. So with no further ado, I'd like to hand it over the presentation to my friend Guy.
Thanks, Matt. I appreciate that. Okay, well, no, again, Matt, thanks very much. I really appreciate that. I'm going to go through these slides pretty quickly. And obviously, we're looking forward to taking questions and any follow-up necessary. But I want to start with a couple of data points first, because I think it's important to kind of establish what is going on in the industry and some of the challenges from a third party like JB Knowledge, really smart guys over there. And I think they sort of sum it up here. You know, it really is all about integrating these disparate types of applications in order to give that seamless exchange of data. And that's a key word there, is that seamless exchange. And I'm going to be talking a little bit more about that as I go through these slides. I want to start though with sort of a good news and a bad news, and maybe it's not bad news, but it's room or areas for improvement. The good news on the left is we've seen an incredible jump or leap in the use of digital technology to enhance the inefficiencies that are inherent in the construction industry. Surprisingly, maybe in some cases, you know, accounting and ERP is the most predominantly used. Project management is there at number 2, and obviously there's a number after that. The good news here is that as we go through this digitization effort in the industry, you know, we're seeing a greater and greater adoption year over year. These numbers continue to increase. If you look at the JB Knowledge data from 3, 4, 5 years ago, it's significantly less. So that's a really exciting thing for us. We're getting away from paper-based manual processes. But The area that's challenging is the lack of integration between these areas. And really, for a construction company, I think you can effectively argue that tying accounting and project management together is absolutely critical, because it brings that real-time data out of the field into the ERP system and pushes it back out, so everybody has up-to-date current job cost types of information. Unfortunately, right now we're relying on manual processes, so people having to rekey data, probably not the best way to operate, right? Spreadsheets and CSVs, which frankly to me are the same thing at the end of the day. And then custom-built integrations. Custom-built integrations serve a purpose, but they're rigid, they're costly, they're hard to change, and as we know, change is something that is ongoing in this industry. So I think overall, it's a bright picture. We've had some challenges this year, but the adoption of technology is going to continue to grow and increase. And I'm hoping that we can help companies also increase the adoption of integration technologies that are, removed from the manual processes, the spreadsheets, et cetera. And that's really what I want to talk about. So we've been doing this for 20 years. Matt mentioned Prolog, which is the older version, if you will, of ProjectSight. ProjectSight being the new web-based sort of version there. We've worked with Prolog for a number of years, so we've been doing this for about 20 years now. And we've seen over the course of those 20 years a number of drivers, a number of pain points, et cetera, but it really boils down to being able to do 4 key things at the end of the day. And I will admit that the first 2 on this list are probably the most important ones. That is automating the processes, right? So getting away from the manual side of things, the importing and exporting of spreadsheets. I must admit, the title of this webinar is a little bit misleading. There is no easy button in the Morpheus world. We don't believe in having a push button or a sync process. We move data seamlessly behind the scenes. So kudos to the marketing team for coming up with a great title for the webinar. But from a technology perspective and philosophically, we only want people to touch the data once. We want them to touch it in their application, the project management application, ERP or whatever application, and have it move behind the scenes so they can just carry on with their job. They don't have to be in multiple applications. Configurability is a big thing, right? Your company is different than the one down the street, different than the one across the country. You may have processes that are somewhat similar, but everyone at the end of the day has something unique, and it's that uniqueness and that ability to be able to address what drives your business from a workflow perspective that we can accommodate and what clients are calling for. So that ability to change and update and create new workflows is something that clients want. I mentioned a custom-built solution. You don't have that in a custom-built solution. It's rigid, it's fixed. Unfortunately, if you do need to make changes, it's costly and time-consuming. We have the flexibility to be able to make those changes literally on the fly, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about that. But the benefit here is obviously no business is static. I think we've seen in this year our need to change and adapt, possibly change business processes. That flexibility has to be inherent in the product that you're using for integration, and that's obviously a box that we check. This is a little bit lesser known benefit of working with an integration provider like ourselves. As we see the increased digitization, right, we're seeing the use of a number of different products out there. Typically, they don't talk to each other. One of the big ones is CRM. Many clients are asking to now pull in CRM data to various applications like a project management system. Human capital management data being asked to be pulled into project management systems or pushed from an ERP to an HCM solution. So Morpheus is a platform, and I'm going to talk about our approach in just a minute or two. We enable you to not only have that project management to ERP integration, but if you're looking at possibly down the tracks bringing in CRM data, we can accommodate you there. We have this concept of adapters, which, as I mentioned, I'm going to talk about in a minute or two. And then finally, there's going to be features that are missing from products, either a project management solution or ERP, as rich and robust as they are. And ProjectSight certainly falls into that category. But because we sit at the nexus, the middle of the data, if you will, being exchanged, there's things that we can do that aren't necessarily embedded or part of the native applications. For example, one of our companies, Ryan Companies, a very large company out there, has a number of business notifications to let them know, for example, if a vendor is overcommitted, right? Or a contract exceeds a certain threshold in dollar value, possibly kicking off another business process, possibly alerting someone to put eyes on the contract because it exceeds X amount of dollars. So there's a lot of cool things we can do working with clients to build out these notifications, these alerts that may not be native in the products that they're integrating with. So how do we do it? Okay, it is a unique approach, but it's sort of elegant in its simplicity, if you will. We have adapters for all the major ERP solutions, as I mentioned, CRM, HCM, and others. Those really are the productized version of the Morpheus solution. They understand the endpoints, they understand the APIs, they know how to authenticate, they know how to move data, get data out of one application and into another. But they're effectively dumb. I hate to say that, but they are, you know. It's really the process engine that provides that magic, if you will. And this is what I like to say allows our clients to have the keys to the kingdom, if you will. So obviously, as part of a configuration, because we're configuring workflows here between the two systems, we need to do that at the beginning of the project, get it up and running, go live, you know, enjoy the benefits of that. But again, clients are going to want to change, they're going to want to update things. We leave them with those keys because it's a no-code environment. It's very easy to change, modify, adapt workflows to your business processes as they change and as your company evolves. So we like to say we give you that ability to gain and maintain control by way of the engine, the process engine. We don't limit our clients to the number of workflows they can do. In fact, we want them to do as many as they possibly want, because there's obviously more value they're going to get out of the system. And then finally, I talked about this seamlessness, exchange of data. That JB Knowledge quote, I think, summed it up really nicely. We're automated. We're behind the scenes. As I like to say, our demos are very boring in that we show the data being entered in one application and it shows up in the other. Voila. But our goal is to have people touch the data once, stay in their swim lanes, and really focus on what they do best. If they're an accountant or in the finance group, focus on your work. Don't worry about what's going on in the field, getting the most accurate, timely information out of the project management system. It's going to be there when you need it. And likewise, as a project manager, you're going to have that financial information. So seamless, behind the scenes, transactional and automated in essentially no push button, as I mentioned earlier. This is sort of the payoff of the key slide, as I like to say. These are typically the 8 areas that we focus on when configuring the solution for the client, integrating the data. These 8, just over our 20 years, have time and again been the ones that clients are asking for. Sometimes clients will just want actual costs. Everybody wants actual costs. And having actual costs on an hourly or daily basis is nirvana for project managers, right? So we certainly enable that, but we like to build off of these other capabilities because it brings the full richness and the platform to the forefront of what a client can actually do. The data flows, frankly, we don't care the way the data flows. A lot of folks start off in ProjectSight with the budget and then push it to the ERP solution. That's fine by us. Again, high configurability is what we're all about. So being able to change the data flows, change the touch points and the integration points is something we can do. A number of our clients also want, say, as an example, owner contracts, owner contract changes. That's something we can do as well, but it's typically not part of the standard 8. So there's a lot of flexibility there in what we can deliver. And then finally, irrespective of the ERP, I'm pretty sure we have an adapter for you. And frankly, we'll build out adapters for clients at no development cost to them for an ERP, because obviously our goal is to reuse it time and again. But most of the time, these are the ones we typically see out there in the marketplace. So kind of on the tail end of the presentation here, just a couple more slides. We've been doing this for a number of years, 20 years. Actually, I'm lying a bit. It's 20 years next year, but to give me the benefit of a couple of months there. Typically larger clients with more complex business processes, but our solution is scalable, right? Just as much as we can configure workflows and business processes for a large company, we can do it for a small company that maybe has less complexity. And that's the beauty of this. It can scale up, it can scale down. You know, the clients on the left are using a variety of different applications. The clients on the right, I just wanted to highlight, those are actually our ProjectSight clients. Very happy with the results of those clients. And as Matt knows, I'm always willing to put prospects in front of our clients and let them have a conversation around their experience, not just with us, but in general around integrations and the value they're getting obviously out of ProjectSight connected to an ERP solution. And then finally, I've snuck in the Morpheus template here. Hopefully Matt won't mind. Finally, I just wanted to kind of final thoughts, if you will, around things, again, we've seen over the years. And as you prepare for an integration, if you choose to go down that path, and I assume being on this call, there's obviously a level of interest. There's certain things we've recognized that help, certainly during the process, but in preparation for it. One of the biggest ones is around processes. What we're effectively doing is standardizing your workflows, right? And in a lot of cases, we're taking a manual process and automating it. That's typically what we end up doing. So it's really important for clients, prospects, to think hard about, okay, how do we really want to, use and move cost codes? What happens when X happens? Does Y happen? So being able to talk through those ahead of any integration is of tremendous value because it makes the process just go quicker. And of course, anytime a company can standardize and have those conversations, it's just going to make them more efficient overall. But that's one of the biggest challenges we see in working with clients is a lot of time spent on thinking through the processes and optimizing them. Very closely tied to this is the people aspect, right? And frankly, I'm not being too profound here with people and process, but we have found ourselves in situations, which is fairly typical of the finance team, having their discussions in a vacuum, so to speak, the project management team actually bringing in, the technology, the project management technology, and the two of them have not spoken. So it's really important to get those two critical groups, obviously those involved in finance, those involved in projects, talking and sharing in order to achieve the standardization around business processes and all the other things that come from it, because those discussions do need to be had. Again, those are one of the challenges we see is getting everyone aligned, singing off the same song sheet, so to speak. And then finally, partners. And I'm not so much talking about us here. This is really about ProjectSight and the Trimble team. I think these guys are in it for the long haul, right? Trimble has a phenomenal history in this space. ProjectSight has that wonderful legacy of the Prolog product. They're great teams to work with, and Matt and his team are phenomenal. We work closely with the development team as well as solution consultants and solution engineers. So there's a seamlessness, not only in the exchange of data, but there's a seamlessness to the way we work. And sometimes I would argue clients don't know whether it's Morpheus or ProjectSight. That's how closely we work together as we roll out these integrations. So great group with the Trimble team. Get folks involved on both sides of the table, the finance, the accounting, and I did neglect to say the IT team. I apologize to my IT friends. They are definitely the third leg of the stool there that needs to be included. And finally, get everyone agreeing on the right processes that you want to drive forward to really take advantage of the integration. So just a couple of thoughts there based upon our experience. Matt, with that, my friend, I am done, and I guess we can, look at some questions potentially.
Yeah, we got some questions here. So the first one here says, if I don't want or need all 8 processes, are there other options?
Yeah, that's actually a common question. I sort of covered that, and maybe they missed it. But yeah, we can do process by process, literally. Now, some of the processes do build upon each other, sort of as a bedrock or foundation. Projects, cost codes, and vendors typically would be the minimum. And I will admit there's questionable value in that. I mean, if you're doing hundreds of projects a year, certainly there's value, but if you're doing, a couple, you got to question whether it is indeed better to do it manually. I'll be frank there. But at the end of the day, Matt, yeah, you can pretty much pick and choose. And like I said, owner contracts, just to use an example, isn't on that list I showed, but if you want that, we can do that. I like to say we're really only limited by the data we can move, which is only limited by the APIs. So it's a good question. Yeah.
Gotcha. Another question, how easy is it to create additional workflows between the respective systems?
Yeah, that can be certainly a longer conversation, but the important thing to recognize is this is there is a configuration and setup process, right? And depending on those finance and accounting teams communicating effectively, that determines a lot of times how quickly we can move through it. But as we go through that configuration and setup process, one of the things we do is we ensure that there is that knowledge transfer, if you will, of how to do the configurations. Not to get into the weeds, it's a no-code environment, like I said. It's basically SQL select statements. And yes, when I first heard that, I was scratching my head as well. But after spending some time in the application, even I can create workflows. So if I can do it, I like to say anyone can do it. Certainly my 10-year-old son, Matt. So yeah, we leave the folks with the keys to the kingdom, like I said, and those keys are really how to configure, edit, update, change the workflows.
Gotcha. One more question, but before that question, I just want to make one small correction on my side. I said earlier that we're going to have a poll question. I didn't mean that. We're going to have a survey question. So the survey question momentarily will be put into the chat feature and or it'll be emailed to you. And it's very nice and simple. Survey question is, do you want to learn more about Morpheus and or ProjectSight? Yes, no, or maybe later. So that'll be coming to you all shortly. Last question from the audience before we take off is, it's actually kind of a clarification question, wondering if you could explain the notifications again.
Yeah, like I said, that's sort of an underutilized capability of our technology, and frankly, I'm sort of to blame for it. Sometimes I view it as an afterthought, but the longer clients use us, the more value they see in building out, and building out's the wrong word, having these notifications that may not reside in the native application, like I said. So I'll go back to Ryan Companies. I just reviewed their list prior to this webinar, and they probably have about a dozen or so specific notifications that enable them just to manage their business a little bit better. at points where they need to, well, let's call it what it is, really intervene in the process. You know, our process operates behind the scenes. It's automated, like I said. There's no send to ERP. But in some cases, you may want to have eyes on certain documents. You may be wanting to know about things within some of the contracts, like the dollar limits. So we have that capability, and we obviously leave you with the capability just as much as we do for the configuration to build out those notifications just about as flexibly as the configuration itself can be built out. Hopefully that helps a little bit there, Matt.
Yeah, and actually we got one more. Someone's squeaking in a question in the last minute, and I don't want to ignore it. So the question is, can you create custom integrations to other APIs in the tool, or do I need to have an external middleware to do that?
I might need a little bit of clarification on that one, but the short answer is yes. If, for example, I think I'm understanding the question. If there are new APIs within ProjectSight as the result of a new module, or something changes on the existing API, we can certainly, in the first case, take advantage of that and leverage that API to integrate some data. In the latter case, if the API has been changed, part of our job and part of using us is that we monitor those changes to ensure it does not have an adverse impact on the integration itself. So hopefully I got their answer correctly. If not, I'm happy to follow up one-on-one.
Yeah, I'll make sure that I can give you this person's name just to make sure that there were any clarifications there. So, sure. All right, well, with that, I thank you very much for taking the time, Guy. This was great. And I have to correct my correction. So apparently it's not going to be in the chat. When you guys close out the webinar, the survey option will pop up. So my mistake there. But once again, thank you all for attending. Hopefully everybody found this beneficial, and we look forward to seeing you all again in our next webinar. Have a wonderful rest of the day, everybody.